to me. As many of you will remember, my hat went on an unplanned holiday, and as a result I had to go asking around, and Nikki very kindly offered me her hat, and in her hat were a sort of collection of lilac-breasted roller feathers that James immediately saw and seized the opportunity to say, "You must give them to me. You straight away, you must give them to me." And naturally I could never have possibly done that to Nikki, and that is my side of the story, and I'm sticking to it. I have not denied him his coffee at all, but if I do see a lilac-breasted roller, I shall be sure to, not a live one obviously, but I shall be sure to gather its feathers and collect them, and then I'm going to wave them at James from across the room and quietly pocket them. And he can take that as payment for his harsh lies that he's been spreading about me. But that is the story behind the lilac-breasted roller feather. Absolute untruth. And now our striped horses have moved off a little bit, so I'm just going to reposition slightly so that we can have a look at them. The light's starting to be really nice, and we do have this really stunning view. And for those of you joining us for the first time, this is a live safari, so what you are seeing now is happening here in the Sabi Sands in real life, in real time, on Djuma Game Reserve. And just to give you guys a little bit of an update, I am stumped by my mystery. I do not know where Shadow and Sindile managed to disappear off to. Let's see if we can sneak a gap in here. So for now, I have left the area of their tracks, and I promise you that I will come back to see if they come out later. I just cannot work out which way they've gone or what happened there. Apart from the kill, I'm still going to have to follow up maybe a bit later as it starts to get cooler and they move around. So as we're looking at this zebra in front of us, you can see the mane sits up nice like a little mohawk on the top of all of them. And Sharon in Pittsburgh, welcome to the Sunset Safari. Sharon would like to know if it ever grows long enough to flop over in the same way a horse's does. And the answer to that is no, it never does. It stays at that length. They sort of grow to that length and then stop. They don't grow in the same way horses do. And actually the mane is a very good indicator of the condition of the zebra. So if they start to sort of flop over, it's a good sign that they are really starting to become nutritionally sort of underfed, struggling a little bit in terms of health. So the mane does flop, but only when you have quite a sick little zebra in front of you. And it's the best way of judging a zebra's condition, because as they've got such gassy digestive systems, their stomachs always look fairly round, even if they are struggling in terms of weight. So the mane is your best indicator. And if we move down to that right front leg, if we can get a view, if he doesn't move, you'll see that there's a sort of a callousy part on the inside, and that is completely normal. It is just, you'll see it, a slight callus on horses as well. For the life of me, I can't remember what it's called. Oh, I think it's called the chestnut. I could be corrected, but that is just a sort of a calloused part, so that when they lie down, their hooves don't make too much of an impact on the inside of the leg, as far as I know. I could be wrong, but it is nothing unusual. It is something that you see on all of the zebra. I'm still chuckling at the accusation from James about the lilac-breasted roller feather. Utter cheek. Okay guys, in keeping with today's show and tell session, I did pick up some interesting scat that I would like to show you just before we head off on our way. And the reason that I know we're sitting with zebras at the moment, but the reason I'd like to show you it now is because it's actually starting to sort of fill my nostrils with its odor, and I'd actually like to be able to dump it at some point. But the scat demonstration I have is a size comparison between the smallest and the largest predators on the Sabi Sands. So I'm going to just hoist them onto the dashboard here and then possibly scrub it down with bleach when we get back. But let me just show you. Now bear with me for a moment because this might take some coordination. I don't want to use James's leopard scat glove because I'm not sure which part of it he used. So I'm going to use my sticks as sort of chopsticks to try and maneuver this. Ooh, there we go. Yummy. So on our way looping around here, I just stopped off at the dwarf mongoose burrow just to see if they'd left any scat. They'd all disappeared, so I jumped out and grabbed one. And here we have on our left a very nice, very large leopard scat. And I'm sorry, not leopard, lion scat. You can see there's lots and lots of hair in it. And you can also see it is a fairly sizable one. My suspicion is that it is from that mating pair, and it was the males. But it could also have been the females, you never know. Sometimes they do ingest, well, they definitely do ingest very large meals at times. And sometimes that needs to come out. But it is an interesting size comparison because this dwarf mongoose is so much smaller than the lions. A couple of 100 grams compared to a couple of 100 kilograms worth of animal. And yet the size difference is not that enormous. So I think it's safe to say that the dwarf mongoose also have a fairly hard time. And I will remember to wash my hands. I'd like to just break this apart a little bit. And maybe if we can have a look in there at what we can see. A little bit in the way of plant material, but mostly some sort of insect exoskeletons. Hard to see. But I don't know how many times the regular viewers have seen dwarf mongoose scat dissected like this. That's just an interesting insight into their diet. I am not going to do the same thing with the lion scat. In fact, I am going to remove it from my presence fairly shortly. I just wanted to show you guys that so that I can tip it overboard and get rid of the smell that's been accompanying myself and Jandre. And I'm not sure if he's been getting the worst of it, because as we've been moving forward, I wonder if it's been blowing in his direction. If he hasn't complained too much, but I think it is time to dispose of it. My chopstick method. Oh, and gone. I'm going to try and keep my fingers away from my face for now, but in the meantime, as we head off in search of whatever lies on the foreign lands of Arethusa for now, I'm going to send you back across to James, who is still having a wonderful time with his elephants.
I repeat, we've got a bit closer to these elephants. We've come down below the dam wall here, and so far they've been extremely confiding about having us on. That's wonderful. And it's just astonishing to look at the size of this bull compared with the cows. That cow wall pass there is not small. She's a pretty normal sized adult cow, and she is totally dwarfed by the 6-ton behemoth behind her. I mean, he's a monster. A couple of interesting questions have come through. From Mausu again. Since their eyes are so far apart, how well do they see? Mausu, I think elephants see as well weed. Probably one weed, but I think the ability is almost good as ours. The distance of their eyes is I don't think is an issue. What is interesting is that the eyes are more on the side of the head in the front, and that's fairly typical of herbivores, which need to watch out for predators, rather than the predators, for example, which like to look after, they need binocular vision. I believe our signal isn't great. Andrea. Okay, we're going to have to go backwards, because if we go forwards, we're going to lose all signal. Sorry about that, Andrew. I know you do like to be close and personal with elephants. Stop there. Can you level there? Okay. So everybody, I'm sorry if you happen to lose our signal. We can't the data. I think it's probably what we've got a bit. This signal will be a bit better. The aerial is up. So just to go back to that, Masu used. We're going to go back onto the wall, I'm afraid, Andrew. There's just no signal here. Sorry about that. Generally choose the correct gear when going backwards. Sorry about that, Andrew. I thought it was quite nice to get your heart rate going a little bit. Sorry, elephants. They are probably thoroughly sick of the sight of us by now. I wonder if they find us as amazingly entertaining as we find them. We're going to have one last look at them from the top of the wall here, and then I think we're going to press on and see what else we can see. So sorry about the signal, everyone, but not much we can do about it from down there, I'm afraid. So quickly to recap, Masu asked about the eyes, and they're so far apart, and does that affect their ability to see? I don't think so, Masu. I think they can see as well as we can. And like I was just trying to say there, the predators tend to have their eyes on the front of the head. That gives them binocular vision, which allows them to judge distance a bit better, but it does reduce the peripheral vision. Now, animals that have been preyed on, or are preyed on, or have been preyed on in the past, by past I mean in evolutionary history, will tend to have eyes that are on the side of the head, which grants them greater peripheral vision, so they can see more, but their ability to judge distance is not quite as good as it might be otherwise. A very nice little question as we watch all these elephants eating on their sticks from little Isabella, aged 4. Isabella, you can see them eating sticks there, can't you? And you want to know why they eat sticks. Isabella, it's because there's not enough grass at this time of the year, so they like to eat sticks only when there isn't enough grass for them to eat. Otherwise, they choose to eat grass and leaves rather than sticks. And remember, they eat a little bit of the whole stick, but normally they just eat the bark just outside the stick. And if you're not sure what I mean, pop out into your garden if you have one and get your mum or your dad to show you the difference between the wood and the bark. And they like to eat the bark mainly. Very interesting question that I'm not sure I can answer from Ocean in Oregon. It's a lovely name. Do some elephants not eat some plants that other elephants will? In other words, are some finicky eaters like us people tend to be finicky eaters? Andrew, what do you not like to eat that I like to eat? Well, Andrew likes to eat breakfast bars, I suppose, and I don't like to eat them. Are there... So I actually don't think so. I'm sure there are perhaps the odd personal preference, but I'm not sure that it's a major thing. Interesting one. Ocean, I shall watch actually, and be careful about this time of year. Probably not, but maybe in summer when there's more to eat, perhaps they are a little bit more individually selective about what they eat. Alright, Andrew, I think we're going to press on and see what else we can see. I think my plan for now is to head off to the east. I think we're going to go off to Buffelshoek Dam and perhaps get a bit of a nice sunset from there, and that'll be fun. Maybe a leopard creeping out into this golden afternoon light, but maybe just some lovely scenery. Wonderful afternoon with the elephants. And as we leave, one more question from Hans in Holland. And it's on elephant communication. I'm going to answer it while we're driving. Hans, oh, sorry. Andrew, won't you just try and get this little bird? No, never mind. It's gone. Sorry, it's disappeared in there. So let me just answer Hans's question. It might pop out. There it is, a little rattling testicular. We hear them all the time, but we very seldom see them. So Hans, you want to know about elephant communication, basically, and while they're standing there, are they sitting there listening through their feet? There is, for those of you who don't know, a theory that elephants can communicate tectonically, that they can feel vibrations through their feet. I think they probably can, but I don't think they're doing it here, Hans. I think, they're so close to each other at the moment, and I don't think there's any real need for them to be doing that. They're rumbling at each other and communicating in them sort of more, I don't want to say traditional way, but they're communicating in a way that is more appropriate for their close-knit group that they're in now. So, wonderful elephant sighting. I think we're going to push on now, and let's see what else we can see. Thank you, Andrew. Definitely the temperature is starting to drop slightly now. Bye-bye, little elephants. See you later. This has made my day. We have a question from Carol in, I think it's Olin, Illinois. And Carol, you run a beauty shop, and in your beauty shop you stream us to all of your customers. You've just made my day. I think that is the most wonderful thing I've heard. And your question this afternoon is, you've obviously been watching for some time, and for those of you who perhaps don't know, we have a hyena den around on the reserve, and there's a very young cub there who's still black, and he's about 9 weeks old at this stage, as far as probably about 9 weeks old. And you want to know, will he get spots, or she get spots? I think she's a she. Absolutely, she will get spots. Not for a little while yet. Probably at about 3 months, she'll start to get spots. And definitely once it starts, the process happens quite quickly. But absolutely. Lovely question, and I hope all of you in the beauty salon whatever treatment you happen to be having or enjoying our game drive here in Africa, and I hope you'll come and visit us one day. Another one of our extremely well-informed viewers, James in Kansas, and we've been talking quite a lot about the migratory birds of late, and I've been looking out for warbirds, eagles, which are often some of the first birds to arrive, and the yellow-billed kite as well. And James says he's heard that there are some lesser striped swallows somewhere in South Africa that have returned back from their wintering grounds, and he's asked me to keep a lookout for them here. I absolutely will. That's wonderful information. Thank you. I certainly haven't seen any yet. That said, you know what? I did see a swallow today, and I just palmed it off as one of the swallows that stays here all year round, like a mosque swallow, but I didn't have a close look. So maybe it was a lesser striped swallow. Does continue to astonish me, the amount of information that our viewers have and how much I learn every time I come out here, not only from the wild, but from all of you who take the time to watch us. We do appreciate it hugely. Ashley from Alabama, how you have put me in an awkward position to answer a question. Ashley, you want to know, are there any animals around that mate purely for recreational purposes? It's not a simple answer to give. There is a simple answer, sort of, and that is that yes, there are, and one of them, of course, is the porcupine. Now, a porcupine, despite the fact that it is the most ill-equipped, perhaps, for this activity, must breed every day, or mate every day, in order for the female to cycle. Now, of all the animals that evolution, or God, or whatever you think made us like we are, of all the animals that should have to mate every day, why a porcupine? Can you imagine the awkwardness of that? Anyway, that's one of the animals that has to do it. But now it raises the interesting question of, are they doing it for pleasure, or are they doing it because she has to cycle? So it's probably a bit of both, I suspect. I don't think they know that they have to do it every day for her to cycle, and so there's probably an element of pleasure, which of course is the incentive to keep breeding. Very nice question. Thank you, Ashley in Alabama. It's certainly a new one. I haven't had that before. And as the winter progresses, we see more and more trees knocked onto the road and sort of lying about the place because the elephants have to eat so much now. As from mating to mourning, pretty nightmare. You want to know, do giraffes mourn, and for how long? I mean, it's a pretty difficult question to answer. I've definitely seen a giraffe cow around a giraffe baby that is dead, and while a leopard was trying to feed on the youngster, she hung around for about 4 days almost. Certainly it took the leopard about 2 days to find the carcass, and then the mother still hung around for a long time after that. So I suppose you could say that it was a form of mourning. It's not as obvious as with elephants, but certainly it could be considered a form of mourning. So no tracks of leopards or lions at this stage. Just going to stop up here. I can hear some alarm calling. Can you hear that, Andrew?
Yeah.
That is the alarm calling of the infamous chin-spotted batis. There he is. You see him there?
Yeah.
That is a chin spot batis, and they're alarming at something. Could be a snake. It could be a mongoose. It could be a lion. It could be a leopard. Let's just have a quick listen. Mostly they alarm call at snakes. Beautiful shot. We'll just have one more look at this chap, and then I will just go off on foot and have a look around here and see if there isn't anything worth bringing you back for. And while I do that, we'll go across to Jamie, and Jamie is with, I think, a muddy bovid and an attendant ave. We'll see you just now.
So guys, welcome back, and as we take this moment to really look at the beauty of these oxpeckers, I just want to double check what's happening on the Game Drive channel. I just heard a message about tracks, so I just want to listen carefully to what's happening there. And apparently there's plenty of competition for one of the best tick catching spots. And that is a particular area on the buffalo where obviously the skin is a little bit thinner than the rest of it. So they're just struggling to get in there and get some of the really, really large ticks. And incredibly helpful birds for these buffalo. They can eat, any one of these birds can eat up to 1,000 ticks in a day. So they can be very, very helpful in ridding them of those horrible parasites. You can see this old bull's also been rolling in mud. We are currently sitting at Red Dam in Arethusa, and there's not very much left of it apart from a couple of muddy pools that these buffalo have probably been wallowing in, or definitely been wallowing in. And a combination of mud skin treatment and oxpecker action is a great way of treating a tick problem. Sorry guys, just listening to the Game Drive channel again. Sorry guys, that was a long message, but it was a very, very interesting one. And I just want to check exactly what they were talking about. So it sounds like it is right on our western boundary, so the western boundary of Arethusa, but the guides have picked up 2 sets of tracks and 2 sets of male leopard tracks. Their guess is Tengana and the Anderson male, and for some of the regular viewers you will know that a couple of, maybe a week or so, a bit more than that ago, Scott had them on a sunset safari growling and vocalizing at each other in a very, very similar area to where they've picked up their tracks now. Unfortunately, it is just across our western boundary, but by the sound of it, the tracks are looking like their general direction is east, which is positive news for us because it gives us a good direction to start looking for them in. And who knows, we might be in for some exciting times ahead. And for those of you who don't know exactly what I'm talking about, maybe you've joined us for the first time, Tingana is one of the large dominant male leopards in this area. He is somewhere around 9 years old, and recently he's been challenged by the Anderson male, who has moved in from the west and is starting to look at coming into Tingana's territory and pushing him a little bit. And they were seen together with Scott, and they were seen together for about a day, just growling at each other. So this could be possibly a very, very exciting sunset safari if they have moved to the east. I'm going to start heading in that direction. So, very, very exciting news coming from the Game Drive channel, which I am just still trying to listen to. There's a lot of guides coordinating search efforts around there. So what I'm going to do to try and help them out is just move along some of the eastern roads that I can, that are on our boundary, and just check around for him there, see if we can pick up any tracks. But exciting times, and over the last 2 days we had conflict between the Birmingham boys, the big coalition of male lions, with the Matimba male lions. So possibly we're going to get some conflict here between, or at least some interaction between Tingana and the Anderson male. So I'm very curious to follow up. I'm going to keep trying to listen to the updates on this radio, and in the meantime I'm going to start heading across in that direction. So we're going to start driving into the sun. We're going to go into quite a nice drainage line. Sorry, that go-away bird started very suddenly. And he's stopped calling now, so whatever it was not too serious. Okay, so let's see what we can see. I'm going to start driving through quite a thick drainage line, but it is a really, really nice road, and it puts us, we pop out right at where the Nkuhumas killed that buffalo fairly recently. And I'm quite happy with the way I'm starting to get to know the roads of Arathusa. It certainly helps that we've had a couple of awesome sightings here. So guys, at this point, they still haven't found the leopards yet. They've just found the tracks, and they are trying to follow up. Now, I've just heard one of the guides say that it was driven over by a car, so they're just sort of spreading out and searching. And I don't want to work in the same areas as they're working in, but let's start moving through this drainage line for a bit, and I'll start checking. You can come along with me and check the other roads, and then once I get a little bit closer, then I'll jump on the Game Drive channel and let the other guides know that I'm on my way to this area. Just listening to the alarm calls of the various birds. Don't think that go-away bird sounds too frantic. Just going through a dip here, so let's get through before we carry on discussing those alarm calls. So guys, I was talking a little bit about the alarm calls of that grey go-away bird, And I was just saying I don't think that it's too serious. In fact, I think it might be just communication between the other go-away birds, or with the other go-away birds. And Tim would actually like to know how you tell the difference between bird alarm calls and then just their general communication with each other. And for some of them, there is a very distinct difference between their call or their normal song and their alarm calls. And for others, it's very similar. So for the go-away bird, they can call to communicate to each other in the same way that they might alarm call. But there is a very, very different tone to it. So they might start, they have quite an alarmed feeling to the way that sound is very sharp, it's very sudden, and it's very loud. And that's really difficult for me to explain because it's something that I've picked up over time rather than knowing exactly what it is that makes the difference. The most important thing to listen out for when you're listening to really serious alarm calls, and I'm actually going to stop because he's still calling and I want to just listen while I talk. The most important thing to listen for in terms of alarm calls is whether or not there are other species calling as well at the same time. And with a lot of bird species, once one starts, the others will actually head across to that area and have a look at what they're shouting at, because it's quite important. You might need to know that you are on alert, but it doesn't help you if you don't know which direction or what you need to be on the alert for. So alarm calls will often trigger other alarm calls from different species. And if you get lots and lots of individuals calling along with lots of different species, then you can start to know that they are responding to something that is a threat rather than anything else. And it does just come down to experience. I've heard go-away birds calling before, as these two are to each other, and I don't think it's a serious alarm call, because although they are doing it fairly regularly, so I could be wrong. I'll just be quiet so you can hear. And I think I've changed my mind about which direction I want to go in. I'm going to actually turn around and just double check on those alarm calls. Now Tim, I'm not hearing any other alarm calls of any other animals, and as I said, very often other animals and other birds will come and investigate. So I'm not entirely certain that these three weren't just communicating with each other. So there's no definite answer, it just comes in terms of experience. And the fact that everything has gone quiet leads me to think that there isn't actually a serious threat, or if it was a threat, it could have been something like a bird of prey that has flown past. With a leopard or something, you find that they tend to shout repeatedly. You get multiple species shouting, and they do it in a very panicked tone. For example, the other day I heard the grey go-away bird starting, and immediately, and I can't put my finger on exactly what it was, I knew that there was something there, and then the hornbills started going and the squirrels started going, and we followed them in and almost instantly found a spotted eagle owl. So you can tell it takes some time just listening and concentrating on what's happening around them. The fact that these guys have gone quiet makes me think that it's nothing too serious, and I'm going to continue on my original path. But just a very interesting question about the various nature of alarm calls. I'm just going to listen again to the Game Drive channel, make sure that I'm not missing anything happening as we make our way through a very, very beautiful area and a beautiful drainage line. You can see how nice and sandy it is. It's one of my favorite roads on Arathusa so far that I've discovered. So we'll head in this direction. Making sure my diff lock is on, because this is exactly where I was when I got stuck with Brian, but in a slightly different context. We were trying to follow up on those praying lionesses, so we were at a different angle to the one we're at now. made it through unscathed. So guys, I'm going to send you back across to James, who is driving through Djuma just to see what he can find, and I'm just going to hop onto the radio channel and get some updates from that side.
And Jamie will be able to get in there, and he will be blessed with a sunset sighting of Shadow and her cub. So that's good news. Bad news is you've got to deal with me for the next little while Jamie gets into the sighting. And we are on the far northeastern section, heading towards Buffels Hook Dam, where our great friend Bob, the bachelor of Buffels Hook, managed to make a reappearance this morning, which was very exciting. I was most pleased about that. So we're going to go and see if he's spent the whole day there, and probably watch the sun go down gently over the wall and enjoy the peace of this wonderful African dusk that is about to take place. Francolins on the road, little crested francolins. We'll see them about to fly off now. Run, 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 little birds. There we go. Get off, go on. The cliche, why fly, why run when you can fly, comes to mind. It really is turning into a very stunning afternoon. Oh, when last you saw, we had some alarm calls from chin spot batises, and I'm afraid we didn't come up with anything. I did walk around the area for a while, but there weren't any chin spot batises. Wasn't anything that they were alarming at. Oh dear. So a couple of questions here from Tom and Barbara. Tom, you're in the Netherlands, and Barbara, you're in Milwaukee. While I remove this tree, this obstacle placed by a recalcitrant elephant bull, we do see snakes on drive quite often, but not so much in the winter time. Because thanks for your help, Andrew. You just chill out there. Because of course most of them are hiding away from the cold and the dry.
Strong man.
Yeah. In summer we tend to see them a bit more, but you know, they do try and avoid people a lot, and they avoid vibrations made by cars and vibrations made by people on foot, so we don't see them a huge amount. And then Tom, you want to know basically, do any of the snakes here eat other snakes? And Tom, they do, you know. There's a really nice example of it, and that's the Mozambique spitting cobra. Well, in fact, a couple of cobra species will eat puff adders, and a puff adder, if you don't know, is like I suppose the most obvious North American example would be a rattlesnake. It's a similar kind of a snake, an adder with a cytotoxic venom, and the cobra has a neurotoxic venom which will paralyze most things, and they bite the puff adder, and it's, I mean, I've seen amazing video footage of it. The puff adder goes into these horrific sort of convulsions before dying, while the cobra lurks around in the background waiting, and eventually the cobra will then swallow the puff adder. So yeah, it does happen. Good question, thanks Tom. Oh, I'm not plugged in, yes I am. We're just approaching Buffels Hook now. we're driving along to Buffelshoek Dam. I've been asked a very difficult one. Genevieve, New York, nice question. What animals do I feel have had to adapt the most or evolve the most since human beings have been around? Well, Genevieve, we've been around for the last 100,000 years or so in our current form. So let's rather use the term adapt rather than evolve, because oh, there's an elephant. Probably been drinking at Buffelshoek Dam. So we'll just have a quick look at this elephant. I'm not going to hang around with him because we've spent an enormous amount of time with elephants today. So that's an elephant there, and I love the way the golden light of sort of bounces off those last leaves, sitting on a tree wisteria. All right, well, let's carry on quickly because I want to get to the water hole. No disrespect to you, elephant. Thank you for showing your face. Genevieve, so what animal has basically had to adapt most to human encroachment or human beings being around? I don't know. You know, we've driven quite a few extinct, so some have definitely not managed to adapt. I think maybe the best way to answer that is to say that some animals are more adaptable than others. So a leopard is a good example of a cat that isn't necessarily endangered and can survive in places that possibly it didn't know it could. So it'll survive on farmland, it'll survive close by to different human habitations where many wild animals are unable to do that. And a great example we chatted about today was the cheetah and the leopard. Cheetah won't survive around humans. They struggle to breed in the face of disturbance, and they have a very specialized way of eating. Leopard, completely the opposite. They'll very comfortably breed with disturbance around them. They eat anything they can find, and they're just really kind of good adapters. So I wonder if leopard isn't the best example of an animal that has adapted to being around human beings. I mean, of course, something like a domestic dog would be a good example. You could almost say that a wolf, which was the ancestor of the domestic dog, has managed to adapt the best to human habitation, but I think that's us more than them. Now, Andrew, you didn't see old Bob today, did you? You know what? He's not here. I don't believe it. Where would he have gone? We'll just go around the corner here so that you can see the marvelousness of the setting sun. There we go. I'm afraid the hippopotamus is not here. So everybody, that's very unusual, because a hippo won't normally move during the day, and it was quite a warm day. I'm very confused as to why he wouldn't be here. So we'll just watch quietly now as the day breathes out and we do the same, and the sun slowly sets. You can hear beautiful sounds of the Cape turtle dove or ring-necked dove going. Just echoing through the trees. Lovely smells all around, including that of Andrew's flaming lip gloss, which seems to have a very powerful smell. It's not too bad there. Vanilla, Andrew, correct? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that does bring a glow to the heart to see a scene like that. Here where the weavers will come and enjoy the summer, they'll hang their nests there. Lovely time in spring when the weavers are building. Hi Sarah, we've had a couple of lovely questions from you over the last few weeks. I think you're in Ohio. Sarah, you're 17 and you want to know where do the weavers migrate to. Sarah, they don't migrate, they just lose that yellow colouring and they don't live in the nests anymore. So they're all around here and they look very drab and brown and they're just not much to look at this time of the year. But they're all around and now very shortly they'll start to get their spring colours, their bright yellow colours, and in case of the red-headed weaver, what will the red-headed weaver get, Andrew?
A red head.
A red head, there we go. He's quite clever. And the red-billed buffalo weavers don't change, but they'll come back to the nests and probably spend a bit more time in them now during the summer as they lay their eggs, because all the weavers lay their eggs during the summertime because it's much easier for them to find food for the chicks. And Andrew's just going to show you some crested francolins which are enjoying the last of the light before they go up into the trees to roost. Beautiful little birds, calling, pecking away. And of course they don't only eat things like seeds, they're looking for stones that are of appropriate size to put in their gizzards. And the gizzard of course is the forestomach or the front stomach in a bird, and it helps them to, I think it's actually the back stomach, it helps them to grind up the food because they don't have teeth. Look at this little chap. There's one very close behind us here. So sweet. I hope you're getting a sense of this very peaceful evening here. So these little francolins will all be part of the same covey, and a covey is a group of these ground-dwelling birds. I think it's a hunting term, but it's certainly not a hunting term here. Found one of the last repositories of little bits of seed in the dry season. What else can you hear, Andrew? Couple of robins calling, and the sun has finally set. We'll just have a little bit more of a listen. It sounds to me like Jamie's been successful. So I'm not going to move just yet. I'm just going to wait here and see if we don't get an update on it, and then we'll send you straight across to her. I think she's just trying to get into the area. A couple of hornbills, Andrew's favourite, calling off to the side. Robins. Crested franklin's calling now. Alright, well let's just meander along and see what else we can see in the interim. What a beautiful place to sit. I could sit here for hours. Very confused as to what's happened to my friend Bob. That. Some elephants calling there. There they come. We're just coming down to drink, and while they come down to drink, I'm going to hand you straight over to the long-suffering and hard-trying Jamie, who's managed to get into the leopard sighting. Good for her, and we'll see you just now. Enjoy the leopard.
So guys, welcome back, and can you believe it? Right in this thick block, probably about 10 meters or so where I picked up the evidence of that Dacre kill, is Shadow and Sindile. Now at the moment, Shadow is off to our right, tucked in this thick block, although she does seem to be moving around, and she's just very kindly defecated for us. So in keeping with today's theme, at some point I will be going to collect some of that for our Panthera, to help out with the Panthera research. And I'm not sure how clearly we can see her through there. There she's moving. I can also hear Sindile moving around in the block. And yes, we definitely called it right. It was a Dacre kill, although there is not much left of it apparently. So we have a huge thank you to say to Brent, who came walking and followed up on the drag mark in this block, and apparently found them almost immediately, straight from where I'd left off with the drag mark, and had a little bit of a growl from both of them. So at least we got to find them, and our forensic analysis of the whole situation turned out to be exactly correct. They did indeed kill the Dacre. It's just that they didn't drag it too far at all. They've just dragged it into this block here. I'm just going to hop on the Game Drive channel quickly. There's somebody trying to, I think there's somebody trying to get hold of. Just want to see if there's somebody trying to find their way in here, because unless you know where we are, you are definitely not going to see us. Delay. Granted, it is in a very thick area, but at least we know that they are here. So very exciting, and good to know that our forensic guesswork was in fact correct. And I think she might have a spot of diarrhea. She's actually defecated in 3 different places, and that could just be from the richness of the Dacre kill. And isn't that amazing that yesterday you were watching them on the sunset safari with their Dacre up in a tree just about 2 kilometers from here, and then, oh no, sorry, that was 2 days ago, and then yesterday afternoon you were watching them with James hunting right in this area, and now we have the conclusion to that story, which is that they've killed again and managed to eat a Dacre. So Shadow proving to be a very successful mother and keeping Sindile very well fed.
She just phlegm and grimaced.
She's phlegm and grimacing there, that face that she's pulling. Now Brent tells me that he did find male leopard tracks in this area as well, which is also very interesting. He said they were fresh, but they've moved out of this block, so who knows, it could be Tingana. And just an update on that side, they are still following up with the tracks, but unfortunately it looks as though the tracks are moving further west, so not towards our side of the boundary. And that phlegm and grimace that she did as she pulled the scent into her nostrils, the reason that I suspect it might be a male is that's very often a reproductive sort of sensory action. So they smell the urine of other males or females just to get an idea of their reproductive status. And Heather from Maryland, you want to know when Shadow will have another cub. And just for those of you, to update those of you who might be joining us for the first time, this is Shadow. She is a female leopard. I think she's somewhere in the region of 6 or 7 years old. She might be a little bit older. And she has a 1-year-old or close to 1-year-old cub called Sindile, who is tucked away. I can hear him crunching, but I'm going to struggle to get a visual of him just at the moment. But he's tucked away off crunching away. So Heather, the answer to your question in terms of when she'll next have a cub is probably over a year away, probably 1.5 to 2 years, before she has her next set of cubs. She could go, I'd say probably in about a year she will start to mate again. Sindile will, over the next few months, from 6 months to about a year, will start moving away and becoming independent, and then she will start coming back into estrus and have her cubs. And that very much is dependent on the circumstances. And very often it is a tough life for these leopards out here. It could be that she has cubs that we will never get to see, just because the mortality rate for young cubs is so high. So guys, while I reposition and try to get you to see Sindile and what is left of that Dacre carcass, I also need to hop on the radio to call some stations in. I'm going to send you back across to James, who has some ellies at Buffelshoek Dam, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Don't forget the delay. Hello everybody, just a quick, we thought we'd better bring you quickly back to Jigga and Buffelshoek Waterhole, where these elephants are forming a wonderful reflection as they drink quietly from the Buffelshoek Dam. There are just 4 of them, 2 there and 2 off to the left, and they don't seem to be speaking to each other, the 2 cows. You heard them shouting at each other as they came down. We're not sure what the upheaval is, but they certainly don't seem to be in each other's good books. But what a beautiful scene this is. Right, well that's the elephant's little cameo. While you look at the magnificent shadow and Sindile, we'll send you back there and enjoy the rest of the shadow sighting. Wonderful leopard that she is.
So guys, welcome back. I'm just trying to get us a little bit of a visual of Sindile. He is playing around with the Dacre carcass in this block, and if I somewhat riskily, good. Hello tree. Why, thank you for that smack in the face. Is that okay for you, Jandre? Or maybe a little bit forward.
But no, we can see him.
Okay, we can see him. So you can see him playing a little bit with the Dacre carcass, and you can see how incredibly thick this drainage line is. I think it's caught on the tree, on the knobthorn, by the skin, and he is trying to pull it off. So not the best visual in the world, but still interesting. And I cannot get over how close they were to where I first saw that drag mark. I must have been 20 meters away from them at that point. And obviously they felt comfortable enough at that distance not to let me know where they were by growling. I'm just going to, because I did do a little bit of a Ferrari safari back here, and I'm fairly certain that my core body temperature has dropped by at least 2 degrees. So I just want to layer up quickly while I have an opportunity. My collection of things. And I'm not sure exactly how clearly you guys are seeing him at the moment. Obviously I'm driving on a vehicle that doesn't have a monitor at the moment, and my view is largely obstructed by the guarri bush. see him tugging and desperately trying to get that duiker. I think he's kind of playing with it, to be honest. I'm going to make sure my spotlight is...
Got it?
Got it. Oh, and up he goes into some really seriously thick bush up there, so might struggle to get through this particular branch. Let me try and reposition. I can still see him, so maybe we can try and get through here. I'm going to just reverse a little bit and then drive around. Jeandre, I'm afraid you might have some branches to contend with. It is going to be very noisy, guys, so I do apologize for that in advance. Let's see if we can see him. He is being very cute. I'm attempting to save Jeandre and myself from imminent destruction. You okay there? Okay, so I'm not sure how our visual's going to be from here. He is trying to practice hoisting, I think. Jeandre, how's your view from there? Shall I try and move forward a little bit, because we have got, you could see that very, very full belly. Shadow is definitely doing an excellent job of feeding this little boy at the moment. And his instincts are coming into play. He has hoisted his kill. Just going to shift back ever so slightly. Let's try get a little bit of it. Now we must try and stay here. So some interesting maneuvering happening, but I think we've found our best position for now. And I think he's found his best position for now. He's managed to hoist his kill, or his mother's kill, we don't know for sure, up into the tree. Showing that characteristic leopard ability and agility as he moves through these trees and straight back where he came from. So, guys, as we try and follow him back through those thick bushes, and I try not to sort of decapitate either Jeandre or myself, I'm going to send you back across to James, and I'm going to try and find you a nice view of what he's up to. I'll be back with you in just a few moments.
Hello, welcome back. Jamie's just repositioning her car, as I'm sure she told you, and I'm driving at a great speed, not because of anything particularly exciting animal-wise, but there's just such a lovely view of the mountains, and there's a very beautiful viewpoint up here that I want to go to quickly, just before you go back to the leopard. Had quite a good day after all, especially after this morning, which was a bit quiet. Lovely pale winter sky. Nearly there. Don't spill your drink. Couple of impala up ahead. Better impalas. Rhonda in Kentucky, you say you watched my interview on a little wildlife TV program in South Africa called 50/50, and I spoke about my book. Rhonda, and your question was not so much about the substance of my interview, but indeed about what has happened to my long curly dark hair. Rhonda, I'm afraid what happened to my long curly dark hair is what happens to most men's long dark curly hair when they get to round about my age. The scourge of male pattern baldness, which is not uncommon in my family, I'm afraid took it all away, and so I now chop it off very short and close to the scalp. Thank you, Rhonda. Nothing more I can say about that. Andrew, get the camera off my face and put it on the mountains. So there's the beautiful Drakensberg escarpment, and it's a very subtle coloured sky tonight, don't you think?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And I'm just going to actually, I think I might take a picture, Andrew, with my little camera. You might put it on the tripod. And those mountains, as I've said to you before, stretch some 1,000 kilometers down the escarpment of South Africa. The highest point is a point called Thaba Nklenyana. Oh, Andrew, do not try and track a bat, you will make people sick. That is a bat that Andrew was trying to track vigorously there with the camera. Is it a bat or is it a bird?
I think it's a bat.
It's a bat. And Thaba Nklenyana is about 2,800 meters above sea level, which, as world mountains go, is not particularly high. It's not going to compete with the Himalayas or anything in the Andes, or indeed anything in the Alps. But it's very beautiful. Not that I've been there. Andrew, have you been there?
You're ruining my shot, James.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to demonstrate my photographic skill to our audience while Jamie repositions her car. Now, everybody, I'm an extremely amateur photographer, and I do like to take landscapes, which only I ever like to look at. My parents roll their eyes whenever I say, do you want to see my latest pictures? But I will show you what I'm going to do now. Andrew, if you could position your lens on my display screen. And what I'm going to do is try and use that tree as the frame for my picture, using the rule of thirds. And what that means, everybody, if you happen to be a photographer, or you're more professional than me, or less professional than me, which is hard to imagine, basically what we're going to do is to create an image where the horizon is not halfway across, but indeed 1/3 of the way up or 1/3 of the way down, in this case on the way down. And we're going to change the exposure from 8 seconds down to about 2. What do you think, Andrew?
Looking good.
2 seconds, and then we're going to push go and see what happens. Now it is taking the photograph. Now, as you can see, it is busy. And there is my magnificent photograph, which I will enjoy on my own, no doubt, because no one in my family will want to look at it. I'll just take one more.
Don't cut the tree off on the left.
Oh, sorry. On the left or the right? The left. I think we want that one there. Okay. Andrew's better at this than I am. Okay, happy? Or do you think we need both trees? Ah, there we go. Right, there we go. Here we go. Right, so there is my picture, amateur as it was. We're going to take you back to Jamie now, who's with something a lot more entertaining than my photographic skills. I'll see you just a little bit later.
So guys, welcome back, and you'll be happy to know that both Jandre and myself survived a return trip through the trees to try and get another visual of these leopards. Now I'm not sure where Shadow has gone. That looks to be Sindile, who's feeling a little bit tired and exhausted after his Dacre hoisting efforts. So Sindile is an only cub. I'm not sure if there were others in his litter that were killed, but at the moment he is the only cub that his mother has. And Diane from Texas would like to know if there's any kind of social difference or the way that they are raised, if it is a solitary cub rather than having two or three litter mates to grow up with and to learn from each other. And is there any difference in the way that they then approach independence? Are they more dependent on mom? Are they less dependent on mom? And a really, really good question, and one that I've actually never really thought about before, because certainly having a friend to play with or a sibling to play with is a great way of honing your hunting skills. And you'll see it with all of the sort of baby big cats. They tend to play and they go straight for some of the techniques that they're going to use in real life in terms of hunting and catching things. They practice the grip on the neck and so on. So I wonder if there is any difference. I wouldn't think that it is enormous in or realized that it was a leopard. My brain took a while to catch up with the gut instinct and the gut response from all that noise and action. And then some people may have heard my story about my black rhino charge. Some of the more regular viewers. I did on a different reserve in another area. I was charged by a female black rhino. She was a tiny little thing, still very young. But I mean, tiny is all relative, because that's still a good couple of 100 kilograms coming at you very, very fast. And I've had a couple of experiences where I've been charged, or quite a few experiences where I've been charged by an animal. But that's probably the closest I've ever come to thinking, well, this is it. She's not going to stop. She did stop at 2 meters. She went from full speed, and she turned, and it was incredible. Her turning circle was absolutely phenomenal. She basically turned around on the spot at 2 meters, huffing and puffing and snorting. So that was probably my scariest moment. There was lots of shouting involved. So over the next few months, Sindile is going to get more and more independent, and he is already starting to show that he's got the hunting skills necessary to survive on his own. And Peter would like to know if when Sindile starts to move off on his own and he gets his own kills, would he share them with his mother? Would he share them with Shadow? And the answer is yes. For the next few months he probably will. He won't have any objection to her sharing with him. It is unlikely, because at that point, once he is becoming independent, Shadow is also moving around looking for other mating opportunities, which Sindile might try and stay away from some of the bigger leopards that move in this area. But he could well share his kills with Shadow. It's not unheard of to hear leopards of various generations sharing a meal together. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I think he probably could. But it's more likely that over the next few months, as he gains independence, even over the next year and a half, if Shadow makes a kill and he happens to find it, that she will still let him share whatever she's caught. So guys, we have a very flat, very comfortable, very full-bellied leopard with us. So for now, I'm going to send you back across to James, and I will be back with you in just a few moments. See you a bit later.
Hello everybody, and a quick goodbye. Thank you for all your wonderful questions, wonderful contributions we've had today. We've had some great elephant discussions and seen some beautiful scenery, seen 4 magnificent elephant bulls and some wonderful low-felt wildlife. Thank you for a great day. Thank you to Andrew on camera and to all the technical people in the final control, Tara and Louise. And I'm going to hand you straight back to Jamie and the wonderful leopards. And a big thank you, of course, to Brent for finding the leopard. We'll see you in the morning. Thank you very much and good night.
So guys, welcome back, and just as we draw to the close of this particular sunset safari, what an amazing sunset safari it has been. And we followed this story from basically start to finish, when you saw Shadow and Sindile hunting around in this block with James and hearing what might have been a kill, to then following up. I know Brent was looking for them this morning, and then following up this afternoon, finding that drag mark, looking at it, weighing up all the evidence, trying to figure out exactly where they'd been, and then of course with actually finding them and seeing them and really getting to know that the conclusions that we drew from what evidence we had were in fact correct. They had a Dacre kill, they were just in this thick block, exactly in the direction I was walking in. So really cool that all of the evidence tied together, and then great to see Sindile playing and starting to hoist his kills. And isn't it so cool that we get to follow these stories? It's one of the major advantages of these live safaris. So if you are joining us for the first time, you should stick around with us and watch as many as you can, because you do get to follow individual stories as and when they happen. So we haven't got the best view of them. They are in the thick bush, but Sindile is being playful and dragging that Dacre carcass up and down and around and getting it caught in thorns. So a really successful end to the afternoon, and one that I feel has gone very well. So, as always, a big thank you to Jandre for his fantastic camera work and for surviving the thorn attacks as we tried to make our way in here. And a big thank you to Tara and to Lou in FC, and as always our tech genius Eugene. And a big thank you to all of you guys, the viewers, because it really makes this whole thing worthwhile, being able to share these moments and these stories with you. So wherever you are in the world, have a fantastic day or night, and we will see you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. Cheers guys.